thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Statement by members, déclaration de député. 1 second. Que l'on ouvre les portes, let the doors be opened. Statements by members, déclaration de député, l'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is muzzling us for the first time today, and it's to attack the Quebec aeronautics industry. Why work so hard against one of the greatest industries in Quebec? Rather than enforcing the existing legislation, the Prime Minister has amended it to allow delinquents to export the Quebecers' jobs. The Prime Minister protested alongside Navios workers who were illegally fired, and now he's disavowing them without hesitation. It's outrageous. When the government gives its word to Saudi Arabia for the sale of armored vehicles, that's sacred, but when it gives it to workers, that's another story. It's despicable that a government that wants to reform parliamentary democracy use a muzzle to trample on the rights of 2,600 families. More things change, the more they stay the same. On October 19th, the Liberals certainly did not become elected to do that. It must change.
Rochester.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 1948, Cowley Indian artifacts were discovered near the airfield in Debert, Nova Scotia. Subsequent excavations have revealed thousands of artifacts, and radiocarbon dating indicates that the community was inhabited around 13,500 years ago. This makes Debert the oldest known human settlement in Canada, Mr. Speaker. This is a special place, a place of national significance, both to Canada and to the Mi'kmaq. Unfortunately, many of those important artifacts are now in storage, including at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, unseen by Canadians. It is our goal that a properly curated museum can be created with the help of the federal government and the Mi'kmaq to ensure the story of the first settlement in Canada can be preserved and indeed celebrated. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Griesbach.
Mr. Speaker, in a few days it will be Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Month. 100,000 Canadians are living with this crippling disease known as MS. There still is no cure. It's been almost a year now since my dear friend Ted Marianix died after living with MS. He was only 70 years old. He was a police officer almost 40 years and a minor hockey coach. But Ted never let MS stop him from living a full life, even though he needed a scooter to get around. When I campaigned for civic politics in Edmonton, Ted was my most frequent volunteer. When I ran for federal politics, Ted was always there. He was like a father who taught me a valuable lesson. Anything is possible with hard work. Many of us were deeply saddened when MS got the better of Ted. He died June 13. His wife Louise is still grieving. So when we mark MS Awareness Month in May, let's remember Ted and join Team Fight to End MS.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, during the election, I met with many seniors in my ridings of Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge, looking to improve the quality of their lives. The New Horizons for Seniors programs is one way of helping them do just that. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to announce this year, 4 deserving organizations in my riding received $71,000 in funding. The Golden Ears United Church is getting a new entrance and flooring to improve accessibility for seniors involved in the Volunteer Thrift Shop program. The Maple Ridge Lawn Bowling Club is getting new patio tent covers. The CATC Seniors Network is developing an emergency preparedness guide for seniors. And the Ridge Meadow Senior Society will now get new chairs and a sound system to support their community events. Mr. Speaker, I am happy that these groups will be able to continue their great community initiatives to keep seniors active and healthy.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to pay tribute to a great institution in my riding of Saskatoon West. On April 21st, the Saskatchewan Indian Institute of Technologies is celebrating 40 years of empowering learners and realizing potential. Established in 1976, the college became the primary delivery agent for all adult-level courses for Indigenous peoples across Saskatchewan. Today, SIIT is a province-wide system of 3 main campuses, 8 career centres, and numerous community sites. As a First Nations institution, SIIT proudly offers post-secondary education programs and services in direct response to the needs of its students. Thanks to the vision of the original board members, more than 54,000 First Nations and Métis people have attended classes and training programs in an environment that promotes traditional ways and fosters student success. Congratulations, SIIT. Beyond skilled training, you have also delivered hope. 40 years of hope has impact beyond measure.
The Honourable Member for Brome-Missisquoi. Mr. Speaker, Brome-Missisquoi is recognized for the quality of its wine products, for the high quality of its hotels, and for its regional products. Today, I'm very pleased to highlight the talent and creativity of some of its brewers. In particular, the microbrewery Farnham Ale and Lager, which distinguished itself during the 5th Barcelona Beer Festival, winning 3 prestigious medals. I feel it's important to emphasize the efforts made by all brewers in our riding. They promote our county as well as contributing enormously to its economic development. Today, I want to raise a glass once again. Bravo, Farnham Ale and Lager. And bravo to all of our brewers. Continue to ensure that Brome-Missisquoi is one of the most beautiful ridings in Canada.
For Durham.
Mr. Speaker, tonight the French ambassador hosts their annual Vimy reception to honour the special relationship between France and Canada forged on the battlefield at Vimy Ridge. Next year marks the 100th anniversary of this defining Canadian moment, and I'm proud of preparations underway in both countries. In the Durham region, 26 schools held a Vimy Day walk, where students started in 4 different locations, marking the 4 Canadian divisions, and walked a somber 3,600 metres, marking the number of fallen at Vimy Ridge. I'd like to congratulate the board and staff and students from Maxwell Heights, Clarington Central, Bowmanville High, Port Perry High, and Curtis Secondary. And last Saturday, Mr. Speaker, I had the honour of attending the Sam Sharp Gala, where Uxbridge Secondary staff and students honoured their World War I MP and alum, bringing the community together while also raising funds for the students' trip to Vimy 100. Mr. Speaker, I salute these organizers, teachers, and students that show Canada that 100 years later, we hold the torch of remembrance high.
The honourable member for Oakville North Burlington.
Mr. Speaker, 2 of the most influential women in the Canadian art community recently received the 2016 Governor-General's Award for their contribution to the arts, and they share something in common: Oakville Galleries. Like our 2 dynamic and creative Governor-General Award winners, Marnie Fleming and Susie Lake, Oakville Galleries strives to stimulate thought, shift perspectives, and inspire engagement. Marnie Fleming served as curator of contemporary art at Oakville Galleries for over 20 years. Her innovative exhibition programming and adept collection strategy has made Oakville Galleries a pivotal player on the Canadian art scene. Susie Lake, an influential feminist artist with strong ties to Oakville and Oakville Galleries, uses a range of media to explore issues of the identity, gender, and politics of the human body. Congratulations and thank you to Oakville Galleries and both Susie and Marnie for your contribution to the arts.
The honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate an entrepreneurial success story from my riding. 21 years ago, a franchise began in Kingston when 2 friends, John Sotiriades and Nelson Lang, decided to open a fast food place that offered different and healthier fare. With little money in their pockets, Johnny and Nelson rented a small storefront below their 2nd floor Princess Street apartment in Kingston. Although most Canadians might not recognize Johnny and Nelson by name, they most certainly know their restaurant, which became an instant hit with university and college students. 21 years later, they now have restaurants in 13 countries throughout the globe. Mr. Speaker, Johnny and Nelson are the founding partners of the Pita Pit, which just celebrated a huge milestone of opening their 600th store. I congratulate these 2 Canadian entrepreneurs from Kingston and the Islands and wish them luck as they strive towards their ultimate goal of 1,000 restaurants globally, a milestone I have no doubt they will achieve. Thank you.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Last Saturday night, Monsieur Viville Deschênes passed away last Saturday. He's well known of Quebecers because for 30 years he was an aviation specialist in the media. He was a person who knew how to transmit that passion. We knew when we heard him that we'd learn something, and particularly that we would understand it, because he was an exceptional popularizer. Mr. Viville Deschênes had a whole string of jobs, and in his career we were able to congratulate him. He was a citizen of Louis Saint Laurent, but above all, a personal friend. That's why the foundation asked me to mention this and to present my condolences to his wife and his daughters. I would also like to congratulate him on his career. Thank you to the Aerovision Foundation to have paid a deserved homage to Yvon Viville Deschênes. Thank you.
The honourable member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, last week was National Volunteers Week. Fittingly, the Governor-General presented sovereign volunteer medals to what he described as the Team Canada of volunteers. I was honoured to attend the ceremony as one of the 55 recipients from across Canada is a pillar of the community in Hampton in Fundy Royal, Jim Hovey. Mr. Hovey has worked tirelessly in the community of Hampton for more than 30 years. Most notably, he served 8 terms on Hampton Town Council, 5 of those as mayor. As is the case with many volunteers, he also gives his time freely to many other community organizations and has played an instrumental role in the creation of the community theatre. In fact, he does continue to serve the community now. Since his retirement in 2008, he has volunteered on the town's healthcare and public works advisory committees. Mr. Hovey is a true inspiration to the community and to all Canadians, and I am proud to stand here today to honour, congratulate, and thank him for his continued contributions.
Wonderful.
The honourable member for Argenteuil-La-Petite-Nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. March 8th was International Women's Day. The 2016 theme for the day was Planet 50/50 by 2030, Step It Up for Gender Equality. This government is the first in Canada to reach gender equality within the cabinet, and recently one of its members received a prize from the International Paralympic Committee.
I'd like you to congratulate my colleague, the Minister of Sport and Persons with Disabilities, on being recognized for her role in the promotion of sport all through the International Paralympic Committee's 2016 International Women's Day Recognition Award.
She's an excellent role model for all women because she's committed towards equality and integration. And once again, all of my congratulations.
The honourable member for Peace River Westlock.
Mr. Speaker, Alberta has experienced a below-average snowfall and above-average temperatures this spring, leading to Alberta's wildfire season starting a month early. As a result, over the past 2 days, dozens of wildfires have started across Alberta, requiring the efforts of over 650 firefighters, 12 helicopters, and 2 air tankers. Despite the warnings of an extremely dry and hot summer, the provincial NDP government is cutting $15 million from the wildfire management budget, jeopardizing the safety of Albertans. Schools and First Nation communities have been evacuated, highways closed, buildings destroyed, and 2 firefighters injured. In my riding, air tanker pilots have been hard at work to put out wildfires near Slave Lake, even while their jobs hang in the balance due to these reckless NDP cuts. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the 650 firefighters for their incredible efforts to battle these fires across the province, and I call on the Alberta NDP government to restore this critical funding. Thank you.
The honourable member for Parkdale High Park.
Mr. Speaker, April is a very significant month for Polish Canadians. In 1940, over 20,000 innocent Poles were killed in the Katyn forest by the NKVD on the personal orders of Joseph Stalin. Every year in April, we honor the innocent Polish lives that were lost. We also recall another tragedy in Smolensk in 2010. In a cruel twist of fate, 96 officials of that Polish government were killed in an accidental crash that occurred en route to commemorating the Katyn massacre. However, Mr. Speaker, for Polonia, April is not only a time of commemoration, it is also a time of celebration, when Polish Canadians celebrate Pope John Paul II Day. The man who is now canonized as Pope St. John Paul II was not simply a Catholic leader, Mr. Speaker. He was a global leader who spread the values of peace, freedom, and interfaith dialogue. Karol Wojtyła was pivotal to the restoration of independence in Poland and the countries of the former communist bloc. I ask members to join me in remembering the victims of Katyn, as well as the life of Pope St. John Paul II. Dziękuję bardzo.
The honourable member from Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, women in Ontario work for 15 and a half months to earn what a man earns in 1 year. And so yesterday was Equal Pay Day in Ontario. Women on average worked for free this year to this point until today. Canada ranks badly when it comes to the gender pay gap. It's bad for poverty, it's not just. In February, Liberals agreed with the NDP motion to finally implement pay equity. And I'm proud of our NDP team's approach to implementing women's equality. And Liberals can be proud of 2004's Pay Equity Task Force report. It lays out a very clear path to legislate equal pay for work of equal value. It should have been implemented 12 years ago. It would have made a big difference. Today on Equal Pay Day, let's make actions speak louder than words.
Hear, hear.
Member for Provencher.
Mr. Speaker, I wear this blue rose and I take this opportunity to congratulate Brian Pallister and the Progressive Conservative election victory in Manitoba. This morning, the great people of Manitoba woke up to bluer skies. Maybe not literally, Mr. Speaker, but they tell me the clouds are already breaking. But certainly, as our new Premier put it, a bluer Manitoba, rich in hope, rich in optimism.
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, it was a giant victory for the Progressive Conservatives, winning 40 of the 57 seats. You could even say their opponents got orange crushed. It is no small feat defeating a governing party that had been in government for 17 years. It's a tall order, but with his 6'8" stature, Mr. Pallister is no stranger to standing tall, and he took the PCs to a convincing victory. He proved the PCs are head and shoulders above the rest, and that things really are looking up in Manitoba. On behalf of me and my colleagues, Mr. Speaker, we look forward to working together to make Manitoba an even better place.
The honourable member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges.
Speaker, April serves as Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. Having been diagnosed with and treated in 2008 and again in 2011, I am grateful to be here today. I'm grateful to my wife Paula, who's visiting Ottawa today, for being there for me during the treatments, to the nurses and doctors at the Siegel Cancer Centre and the Carbone Cancer Centre, and thankful to the donors across the country who support the cause every single year. Je m'adresse à vous aujourd'hui.
I rise today in solidarity with all of those who are affected by cancer, including my colleagues, and to share a message with all young men in this country. The average age for a diagnosis of testicular cancer is 29. 1 in 266 will be diagnosed with it during their lifetime. The good news, Mr. Speaker, is that in most cases, when it is quickly identified, this cancer can be treated.
Speaker, is early detection, and I encourage all men to conduct self-exams at least once a month. I also encourage them to learn more about the illness by speaking with their doctor or by contacting Testicular Cancer Canada. Thank you.
Oral questions, questions orales. Honorable chef de l'opposition.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Independent Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed what the Finance Department and leading economists have been saying. In fact, the Conservatives left the Liberals a surplus. But instead of celebrating this achievement, they're playing politics and pretending like it didn't even happen. So, Mr. Speaker, why does the Prime Minister continue to mislead Canadians on basic facts?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this government supports and applauds the Parliamentary Budget Officer for his excellent work and continue to work with him to demonstrate the level of openness and transparency that all Canadians expect from this side of the House. The fact is we made commitments to invest in Canadians, to give a larger tax-free child benefit to 9 out of 10 Canadian families, and that's exactly what we're doing with our investments today.
Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the surplus is real whether the Liberals want to admit it or not, and frankly, it shouldn't take an expert in quantum computing to recognize the budget has been called the least transparent in 15 years, and their deficit and job creation numbers are way off the mark. So, Mr. Speaker, if the Prime Minister won't acknowledge basic facts, how can Canadians have confidence that he'll protect their jobs?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Last fall, Mr. Speaker, Canadians chose a vision that was going to invest in this country, that was going to invest in our communities, was going to create jobs and opportunities, put more money in the pockets of the middle class and those working hard to join the middle class, and create the kind of growth that for 10 years, Mr. Speaker, under the previous government, simply didn't happen for Canadians. We committed to invest in our futures, and Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what the Liberal Party is doing.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, yesterday I met with mayors from British Columbia that are struggling with high unemployment in their communities. These families want to get back to work, and the BC LNG industry could create $175 billion in business investment and up to 100,000 new jobs. But these projects need to move forward, and so far from the Liberals, all we've seen is uncertainty. So, Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister stand up and tell these families that he has their backs and he supports LNG?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, for 10 years, the party opposite couldn't get things done for natural resources sector right across the country. And the reason they couldn't, the reason they still don't get it, is they think that you have to make a choice between what's good for the environment and what's good for the economy. What Canadians spoke up loudly and clearly of last fall was that they need a government that does both of them together, that cares for the economy and cares for the environment at the same time. That is exactly what we are doing on this side of the House.
Honourable member for Lac Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed that the former Conservative government left behind a budgetary surplus. The Prime Minister and his Minister of Finance are now the only people who refuse to acknowledge this fact, this reality. And once again, we trust the Parliamentary Budget Officer. The Prime Minister said that he does too. So why doesn't he admit that we left behind a budgetary surplus? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I said, we encourage the Parliamentary Budget Officer. We work hard with him to ensure a high level of transparency for Canadians, because that is what Canadians did not see during the 10 years that the Conservatives formed government. The reality is that we are investing strategically and massively in the future of Canadians to ensure that we grow the economy and put more money in the pockets of the middle class, and that we ensure a stronger future for all Canadians. The Honourable Member for Lac Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, what the current Parliamentary Budget Officer says and what the former Parliamentary Budget Officer wrote is that there's a lack of transparency on the part of this government in its budget, and they had not seen such a lack of information, a lack of transparency for 15 years. So Canadians realize that they can't trust this government. Why is the Prime Minister refusing to give all the information to the Parliamentary Budget Officer and tell Canadians the truth? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, 6 months ago, the Canadians sent this government, the former government, packing. And so they are happy to see a new level of transparency and openness. They shut the door on the most secretive government in history and chose a government who is setting a new standard for rigor, transparency, responsibility, and transparency. And that's what they want as a government. The Honourable Member for Outremont. Mr. Speaker, sometimes the government treats our veterans so badly that we can't just understand it. Corporal Paul Franklin lost both legs in Afghanistan, and yet every year, like so many other veterans, he has to fill out forms to prove that his legs have not grown back. So now that this case has been exposed, can the Prime Minister tell us what he personally is doing to put an end to this ignoble situation? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, during the election campaign and in the years leading up to it, the Liberal Party has always stood up for and with our veterans, to be there for them and to defend their interests, because we saw a previous government that not only through its political desires and also through the actions of its public service was not up to par when it came to serving our veterans. That is why we have pledged historic investments in our veterans in our last budget, and that is why we are always listening to veterans, and we have a solemn obligation to our veterans, and we are upholding it. The Honourable Member for Outremont.
Talking points. Why are we not surprised? Here's the question, Mr. Speaker. Master Corporal Paul Franklin lost both legs serving this country bravely in Afghanistan. Every year, like numerous other veterans, he's obliged to fill out a pile of forms to prove that he still hasn't gotten his legs back. He lost his wheelchair because he couldn't produce another doctor's note. The question to the Prime Minister was, what are his talking notes on veterans? The question to our Prime Minister was, what has he done to put an end to this intolerable situation for our veterans?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as the member opposite well knows, I put forward a mandate letter for our Minister of Veterans Affairs that asked him to respect the sacred obligation we have as a country towards those who serve. We have made sure that we have reopened the 9 Veterans Affairs offices. We have increased the funding to the people who are actually helping our veterans. We are ensuring that we're cleaning up the mess left by 10 years of a government that wrapped itself in the flag every chance it got, but let our veterans down every single day. That's it.
The Honourable Member for Outremont.
Let's talk about messes they promised to clean up, Mr. Speaker. For more than 3 years, they promised to legalize marijuana, and yet thousands and thousands of Canadians will have criminal records for the rest of their lives because they won't even decriminalize something that could have been done overnight. So the simple question for the Prime Minister is this. His minister was in New York, of all places, instead of here today, announcing that maybe in 2017 they'll be presenting legislation to finally do something about it. In the meantime, will the Prime Minister at least promise that there will be legislation to remove the criminal record?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I'm always curious to see what position the member from Outremont will have on marijuana any given time he stands up in this House. The fact of the matter is we have been clear. We believe in legalization and regulation of marijuana because it protects our kids and keeps money out of the pockets of criminal organizations and street gangs. The fact of the matter is decriminalization, as this member proposes, actually gives a legal stream of income to criminal organizations. That's not what anyone wants in this country.
I remind the Honourable Member for Outremont that it is against the rule. I remind the Honourable Member for Outremont that we do not draw attention to the presence or absence of members in the chamber. The Honourable Member for Outremont.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, for 3 years they've been promising to legalize marijuana. That was a part of their election campaign. For 40 years, the NDP has held the same position that marijuana can be decriminalized to stop sentencing people to jail terms, and we want them to remove criminal records for marijuana. Now, he said the veterans' problem was the criminals, or was the Conservatives' fault, and they are blaming us, too, for marijuana. And, now they're depending on the Chief of Police of Toronto, the Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that decriminalization, as proposed by the member for Outremont, does nothing but give a legal stream of revenue for criminals who sell drugs. The reality is that legalizing marijuana properly by protecting our young people, by ensuring that millions of dollars are not being funneled into criminal organizations, is the only way to protect our children and our communities, and that is what we are going to do as promised.
Member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, the
Trade Minister would like us to believe that she was gallivanting around sunny California, promoting Canada and meeting with trade partners, but Canadians know the real reason that she was there. She was there to promote herself on a popular U.S. TV show. What a disaster that was. The minister has stated that it was her and her department alone that organized the trip to California. If this is really the case, can she tell us who booked her stay while she was in Hollywood?
Good.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, once again today, the Conservatives are trying to make a story where none exists. It is the job of the Minister of International Trade to promote Canada's trade interests around the world. Following the APEC summit in the Philippines, she was proud to visit California, one of our most important trading partners, Mr. Speaker, where she did what she was supposed to do according to her mandate letter, which was to promote trade. The Conservative accusations about expenses are false, Mr. Speaker. All the rules were followed. The costs were in line with travel by Conservative ministers in the previous government, and the details were publicly posted months ago, Mr. Speaker.
Order for Red Deer Lacombe.
Well, then that member should have read them, because we know that the hotel rooms were booked for her by Time Warner, who of course owns HBO. When she said that her department handled all of the arrangements for this trip, she misled Canadians. She claimed that this was a trade mission, but clearly it is not. Now she's trying to cover her tracks. Why was Time Warner booking her hotel rooms if this was all planned ahead of time by her department?
Parliamentary Secretary.
I'm going to try in French to see if the member understands, Mr. Speaker. Once again, the Conservatives are seeking a story where there is none. The Conservatives don't like the media, but we know that the role of the Minister of International Trade is to promote Canada across the world and to promote trade. She has also promised to support and defend Canada for its policy toward Syrian refugees. Even the former Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, and the former Minister of Foreign Affairs did appear in American media from time to time. It's important.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, what's not in his talking points is that the Trade Minister dropped nearly 20 grand in taxpayers' money for a stop in L.A. to appear on Bill Mayer's show. She claimed she had a roundtable meeting with Conservative writer Ben Domenech and Maine Senator Angus King. Turns out they were actually panelists on the very same program. The minister actually thinks that the green room is a round table. Mr. Speaker, was there anything real about the minister's time spent in Hollywood with Bill Mayer?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Conservatives are trying to create a story where none exists. The purpose of the trip to Los Angeles was to promote Canadian interests with one of our most important trading jurisdictions. All the rules were followed, all the costs were publicly posted, and they were in line with the kinds of costs incurred by travel by former Conservative ministers. In fact, Mr. Speaker, over the same November to March period in the last year, her Conservative predecessor incurred expenses more than $6,000 higher than hers.
Barry Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the Treasury Board's own department directs ministers to post all travel expenses for the last quarter by March 31st. He and the Finance Minister traveled to Switzerland. The Transport Minister traveled to Washington. The Public Safety Minister went to Washington and London, yet they have not been posted. It's clear, Mr. Speaker, that the Liberals are just paying lip service to openness and transparency. Mr. Speaker, why is the President of the Treasury Board violating his own rules by hiding his expenses?
Hear, hear. The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the Treasury Board follows all the rules, as does every member of this cabinet. We are committed to open and transparent government. And may I say, in terms of the matter and the accusations of our Minister of Trade, she is a person of exceptional international reputation, somebody who came to Canada, back to Canada, to serve Canadians, an internationally recognized expert on the economy and issues of inequality. We are proud to have a minister of her stature who is able to bring to international...
Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, to justify her trip to Hollywood at Canadian taxpayers' expense, the Minister of International Trade rhymed off a list of people she met with. But surprise, surprise, Mr. Speaker, two of those people, Senator King and Lieutenant Governor Newsom, were in fact guests on the very same talk show that she appeared on. So can the minister stop beating around the bush and confirm what we all know, Mr. Speaker? She went to Hollywood to appear on HBO. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Once again, Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are trying to create a story where there isn't one. Whether it be the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, the BBC, or European media, her role, Mr. Speaker, is to promote Canada abroad, and that is absolutely what she is doing. She must speak to the media to do so from time to time to fulfill her mandate. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, a broad array of ministers have not yet disclosed their travel expenses that took place before March 1st, 2016, and yet that is a clear rule from the Treasury Board. The Ministers of Transport, Finance, Public Safety, and the CRA are delaying in disclosing this information, and even the President of the Treasury Board is late and is flying in the face of the rules of his own department. Why are they hiding this information, and when will the Liberals finally follow the rules? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board.
Our ministers, our government, our Prime Minister are committed to, of course, openness and transparency, and we will follow all the rules of the Treasury Board. I just want to say, in terms of the matter of our International Trade Minister, an exceptional public servant, she actually became a parliamentarian after having garnered international attention for her work as a journalist, a financial journalist, and a writer who actually tackled some of the biggest issues facing the world, including that of inequality. Mr. Speaker, she was asked, in fact, because she has international profile.
Honourable Member for Abitibi-Bay James, Nunavut, AU. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we sincerely hope that the people of Attawapiskat will be able to start looking towards the future after these tough years, and we commend the Minister's commitment to build a youth centre and to grant more resources to cultural programs. But the fact remains that the budget contains no new investment for mental health services for young Indigenous people, and Health Canada still does not have enough caseworkers to meet needs. Mr. Speaker, will the Minister pledge to immediately increase the funding for mental health services? The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Affairs. Mr. Speaker, we are extremely concerned by the wave of tragic suicides that is occurring in Indigenous communities across the country. In Attawapiskat, it is very, very important to provide programs on the ground.
First Nations Inuit Health is prepared right now to begin the land-based programming that the youth have asked for, and we know this is about getting back hope and what exactly the youth said to me, that they want their identity back.
Member for Timmins, James Bay.
I'd like to thank the Minister for coming with me to meet with the youth in Attawapiskat and committing to build that youth centre. It is a profound moment. But the larger issue of the crisis in mental health services in Indigenous communities remains. For example, there's only $350,000 for the mental wellness framework for the entire country. How many children is that expected to save? So my question is to the Finance Minister. He can respond to the crisis that has taken the lives of too many Indigenous children across the country by putting those resource dollars into this budget now. He has the power to act. Will he do it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Health.
Speaker, our government is committed to closing the gap in health outcomes for First Nations and Inuit Canadians. In Budget 2016, we outlined our historic investments of $8.4 billion to improve the socio-economic conditions for Indigenous peoples and their communities. Health Canada collaborated with the Assembly of First Nations, community mental health leaders, and our government departments to develop a First Nations mental wellness continuum framework. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Parliamentary Budget Officer released his report on Budget 2016. First, he confirmed that the government did indeed inherit a surplus from us. He also confirmed that their plan will cost significantly more than the $10 billion that they promised Canadians, but most importantly, that their plan actually lacked incredibly important details. So, Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister is this. When will he face the facts that they talk a good game, but they're really not delivering on an open and honest government?
Secretary for Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm so happy for the question from the honourable member. Mr. Speaker, let me quote from the independent parliamentary budget officer talking about our budget, Mr. Speaker. We believe that ultimately these measures will have a sizable impact on the Canadian economy. That's what the PBO said yesterday. Mr. Speaker, our budget is for Canadian family, for Canadian middle class. That's helping the economy. That's what the PBO says. That's what we're going to continue to do.
Member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve to have confidence in a government.
Absolutely.
They inherited a surplus from us. That is what the PBO said. They manipulated private sector economists' projections for their own purpose. They padded deficit projections by the billions. And they've exaggerated how many jobs Canadians can expect out of the budget. That's what the Parliamentary Budget Officer said. Yeah. So does the Minister realize, quite frankly, that his economic credibility is in tatters and that Canadians deserve to have somebody in some government that actually manage their tax dollars responsibly?
Well said. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for a question. Mr. Speaker, Canadians understand, and everyone in this House should understand, in the last month of the fiscal year, our expenses are going up and our revenues are going down. The Conservatives have left us a deficit, Mr. Speaker. And let me say what the independent parliamentary budget officer said about the Conservative. He said that the Canadian economy has remained below its level of potential GDP since 2008, Mr. Speaker. Thanks to Canadians, we are going to grow this economy for a Canadian family, for business, and for the middle class.
Mr. Langley Overgrove.
Speaker, before becoming a Liberal, the Minister of Finance endorsed a Conservative plan to change the age of eligibility for seniors. In his book, The Real Retirement, the Minister wrote, quote, "In 20 years' time, the economy will run better if we retire around age 66 to 67 instead of the current age of 62. But since then, the Prime Minister has told him to change your tune. When did the Finance Minister stop caring about the long-term financial security of Canadian seniors?"
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable for his question. Mr. Speaker, this budget is historic in investing in Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We have reduced taxes for 9 million Canadians already, which is helping our economy. We have the Canada Child Benefit, which is going to help 9 families out of 10, lift hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. And, Mr. Speaker, we're investing in our senior, we're investing in youth, we're investing in clean tech, we're investing in innovation. That's what Canadian wants. That's what we're doing.
Honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, maybe in French they might understand the question. One of the government's bad economic decisions was to reduce the retirement age from 67 to 65, and according to the PBO, that is going to cost us $11 billion per year. We can't afford that. And in fact, in the current finance minister's book, The Real Retirement, he says raising the retirement age is a step in the right direction, and the economy will run better. I couldn't have said it better myself. Will the minister recognize that he was right at the time? The Honourable Minister. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. I know he's interested in this issue, and I think that he knows that it's a good thing to reduce the retirement age to 65 to help lift seniors out of poverty. And we are going to continue to work in that direction, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Laurier Sainte-Marie.
Mr. Speaker, Saudi arms deal, Ottawa consulted no human rights group, but asked only the Department of Defense. And after signing the export permit in secret, the minister repeated that the Liberals would scrutinize any future arms deal. But when we propose a transparent subcommittee to look at our arms export, the Liberals use their majority to vote it down. Mr. Speaker, what are they afraid of? Where is the transparency they keep talking about? When will they start walking the talk?
The Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, indeed, we take very seriously the review we are doing about the export permits. It's a very serious decision, and I assume my decision and the ones that I will do in the future, certainly I will do it very seriously. I'm sure that the committee will work very seriously as well. The committee has a lot of work to do. We will ask the committee to look at the legislative changes that we'll have to make sure that Canada will be a member of the Arms Trade Treaty, and I look forward to work very positively with the committee.
Honourable Member for Laurier Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, the government is continuing to dig itself in on the issue of the arms sale to Saudi Arabia, a contradiction on the idea that the contract was a fait accompli, a contradiction also on the penalties that would apply if the contract was to be cancelled. Yesterday, the Liberals voted against our proposal to create a committee to study arms exports. Why are the Liberals refusing to let parliamentarians do their work? What are they afraid of? Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, well, since my answer in English will be translated in the Hansard, I won't give it again in French, but I want to say that the contract was signed by the previous government. It was signed, and we did not want to renege on Canada's signature because it was done on Canada's behalf. So the export permits then arrived on my desk, the desk of the minister, and we did our what we had to do in transparent ways. Mr. Speaker, during the recent election campaign, many people in my riding were worried because the previous government had decided to raise the retirement age from 65 to 67. That decision created a lot of anxiety among people in many communities in Laurentides-Labelle who are trying to plan for their retirement. So can the Minister for Families, Children and Social Development explain how the budget changes this bad decision to help Canadians? The Honourable Minister for Social Development. I want to thank my colleague for asking about this important decision. We wanted to review this issue because many people would have been hard hit. 35% of the income of the poorest seniors would have been affected, thousands of dollars. I think that everyone here in the House should be glad we changed that decision.
Mr. Speaker, during question period yesterday, the Minister of Environment was specifically asked when she would make a decision on the Pacific Northwest LNG project in British Columbia. Her answer shocked all of us. She flippantly said, "We will make a decision when we are ready to make a decision." When will the minister realize that the uncertainty her government has created is causing investors to flee Canada and is jeopardizing a $36 billion job-creating investment in Canada?
The Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike the party opposite, we understand that the environment and the economy go together. The only way projects will go ahead if they're done in a sustainable way. At the beginning of March, the proponent brought significant new information that raised concerns about impacts on salmon, human health, and Indigenous peoples. We are committed to doing a review that is based on science and facts, and we have said once we have the necessary information, we will make a decision within 90 days. That is what we will do.
Member for Abbotsford.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's not good enough, because the minister first claimed that her decision would be based on science. Then the Natural Resources Minister proudly contradicted her by saying that the decision would be political. And now the minister simply says she'll make the decision whenever she feels like it. The ultimate uncertainty. Does the minister not realize that her inaction is risking a $36 billion job-creating investment in Canada?
Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will repeat my answer. We will make decisions based on facts, science, and evidence. We understand the importance of getting resources to market, but we need to be doing it in a sustainable way. That is what we are doing, and I will quote from the proponent: Pacific Northwest LNG will work to assess its latest information requests and continue to work constructively with federal agencies throughout this rigorous process. We are working with them, and when we are prepared, we will make a decision. Thank you.
Member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, agenda, third party, and magic 8-ball maybe. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Environment rose yesterday and confirmed LNG decisions will be made when and only when she feels like making them. She just created another level of uncertainty. The Justice Minister is on record as saying LNG remains a positive prospect for many First Nations. And the Environment Minister herself can't deny LNG could and would replace Chinese coal. Rather than creating more uncertainty and by consulting her magic 8-ball for answers, why doesn't she look at the actual facts and support the project?
Now the Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, the member opposite maybe didn't understand what I said previously, so I will repeat it. What I said is that we are committed to making a decision within 90 days of getting the information required from the proponent. We will make decisions based on science, facts, and evidence, because that is what Canadians expect, and that is what we will do.
The Honourable Member for Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the recent Emerson report indicated that not only is the Coast Guard understaffed, but its fleet is one of the oldest in the world and urgently requires renewal. We learned yesterday that the government plans to abandon its maintenance project for the only Canadian icebreaker, and we don't have the John Deeper Baker for another 10 years. So what is the plan by the Liberals to meet our urgent Canadian Coast Guard needs?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for the question. Mr. Speaker, as part of the Canadian Coast Guard's multi-year maintenance plan, PSPC issued an advance contract award notice to Davies Shipyard to enter the Louis St. Laurent into dry dock for retrofit and life extension work. Mr. Speaker, due to lack of available space at the Davies Shipyard, the contract has been deferred till next year, and that will ensure that this iconic vessel of the Coast Guard will be able to participate in the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea program taking place in the Arctic this summer. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, for years now, the Senate spending scandal has been shocking Canadians. People are angry that government cronies appointed without any legitimate reason are using taxpayer money like an open bar. When a senator uses public paid staff for home renovations and his tanning salon, this is disgusting. When will the government tighten the belts of this privileged group and clean up these ridiculous practices? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we have always said that transparency and the proper use of public money needs to be done appropriately, and we have taken steps. We are encouraging the Senate to keep moving toward openness and transparency.
This week we're hearing of senators who are using their parliamentary staff to work in their private tanning facilities. We're hearing that they're using them to organize their home renos, and the Liberals congratulate themselves a lot in this House, Mr. Speaker, for talk about openness and transparency, but we've recommended concrete action. We've talked about tightening the expense limits in the Senate, limiting taxpayer-funded travel, and strengthening the Senate Ethics Office. So what we're asking for the government to do today, Mr. Speaker, is to stand in the House and join us in demanding the implementation of those rules by the Senate. Will they do it?
some question about whether or not this is within the responsibility of the government, but I see the government House Leader rising to answer the question.
Mr. Speaker, as we've said, we have at all times understood the importance of managing taxpayers' money in an appropriate way. We have thought that at any point, those that are responsible for abusing taxpayers' money or misusing taxpayers' money should be held to account. The money should be reimbursed. And that includes, Mr. Speaker, the money that the New Democratic Party took for their satellite offices.
Yeah.
Welcome member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, the sun is shining, the sky is bright blue today in Manitoba after electing a strong, stable, Conservative majority government last night. Unfortunately, here in Ottawa, our military is entering another era of darkness. The Liberals' $3.7 billion defence cuts from the defence budget are not only for future procurements. They are cutting the budget for current projects like the Arctic offshore patrol ships and the Halifax-class frigate upgrades. Why won't the Prime Minister get the equipment for our troops now?
No comment to Secretary for National Defence.
I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. It is passingly strange to get a question from the Conservatives about the fiscal mess left behind. There is a perpetual mismatch between the procurement cycle and the fiscal cycle. And the Minister of Defence is now trying to rectify that, Mr. Speaker. Accordingly, there is no funds that will be not applied to projects as they are needed.
Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal procurement process is failing our military. The decision to withhold funding for the Cyclone Search and Rescue helicopter reminds Canadians of the horrible Chrétien decision of the 90s to cancel the EH-101 helicopters. Why is the Prime Minister so willing to put the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces at risk by cutting military funding?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, this is from a member of Parliament who was part of a government that took lapsing military funding to an art form in order to be able to get to a bogus balanced budget. Mr. Speaker, there is no money being cut from projects. And had the members opposite spent more time getting the fiscal and procurement cycles in order instead of climbing in and out of fake airplanes and doing the hard work that needs to match those cycles, then possibly, just possibly, the men and women in uniform would be getting their...
Honourable member for Charlebourg-Outland-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have already returned national defence to an era of darkness. They have deferred until after the next election the procurement of essential equipment, and they've done worse. As the Ottawa Citizen is reporting, they are backing away from procurement projects like the offshore patrol ships, the Cyclone helicopters, and the replacement of the CF-18s. Will the minister show he has some influence and stand up and make sure these projects go ahead?
Mr. Speaker, once again, had the government opposite, the former government opposite, actually done its work, then the procurement cycle would have matched the fiscal cycle, and accordingly, we possibly would have had some procurements actually met. The mess left behind on the procurement cycle by the government opposite means that we are having to realign all of our fiscal priorities. And accordingly, we are now funding matters as they become due. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Hamilton West and Castor Dundas.
Mr. Speaker, constituents in my riding celebrated the announcement by the Employment Minister to greatly increase the funding available through the Canada Jobs Program. Considering the reaction, I had no doubt that we'd see more employers take advantage of this opportunity and help start to train the future workforce of our country. Can the Minister of Employment please update this House on the current state of participation in regards to the Canada Jobs Program?
Minister of Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the member from Hamilton West Ancaster Dundas is absolutely correct. Funding was doubled for Canada Summer Jobs this year, and we are on track to create 70,000 jobs for youth this summer. Applications are up 30% from the year before, with over 36,000 applications. It means more jobs and opportunity in Hamilton and each and every riding across Canada.
For Central Okanagan, Smiltamain Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals may not realize it, but they are playing a very high-stake poker game with the government of Quebec. Bill 74 would allow the government of Quebec to force federally regulated internet service providers to act as censors, blocking Quebecers' access to internet gaming sites. This clearly raises concerns about Quebecers' rights to the internet and censorship. Will the Liberals show their hand and tell us what their position is on this legislation?
Honourable member for Heritage.
Thank you to my honourable colleague for his question. We believe in net neutrality, and of course we'll be having ongoing discussions with our counterparts in Quebec regarding that question. I had the opportunity of meeting many stakeholders that have raised issues regarding that particular bill, and it will be a pleasure to further discussions on this subject. Thank you.
For North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, the Comox Coast Guard Centre is slated for closure on May 10th. We have heard troubling testimony at committee around the technology failures, HR challenges, and even possible tsunami risks. Yet the minister is showing a disregard for the committee, for Parliament, and for residents. Will the government protect our coastal communities and keep the Comox MCTS Centre open? Or will they just keep repeating the same excuses as the Conservatives while they shut down this important marine safety centre?
Fisheries and Coast Guard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, rise to respond to this question. I know, as the member pointed out, the staff were notified late last month exactly when the closure would happen, and although they were notified that the closure would happen in 2014. I think the modernization of these centres has been a long-standing project that began in 2007, and the closure of the Comox station is the last one to be done, and we're moving forward with that plan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Saint-Léonard, Saint-Michel.
Purposes, the driverless car is quite literally at our doorsteps. Technology
is advancing quickly. In some countries, major investments are being made, and more projects on driverless cars are getting underway. What does the government intend to do to support and develop self-driving cars in Canada? Yes. Honourable Minister of Transport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my colleague for his excellent question, given the importance that I place on innovation in the transportation sector. We want to promote this kind of new technology. We want to promote safety. These are very important innovation areas. The Senate Transportation Committee has accepted our suggestion to study this issue in depth.
Mr. Speaker, when the Minister of Public Safety proposed outsourcing RCMP occupational health to provincial compensation boards in Bill C-7, he claimed that compensation would be reasonably consistent across the country. Yesterday in committee, we heard that in Lloydminster, in his own riding or his own province, this could result in thousands less for one RCMP member, depending on which detachment they came from, the Saskatchewan side or the Alberta side. When will this minister acknowledge our concerns about fair treatment and strike sections 40 and 42 from Bill C-7?
Hear, hear.
Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, our government has indicated a new regard for the work of parliamentarians on parliamentary committees. The Prime Minister has made it clear that he wants to see the work of parliamentarians to be adequately supported and invigorated. And if the committee, which is hearing all of the evidence with respect to this matter, has suggestions to make about the shape of the legislation, the President of the Treasury Board and I would be more than happy to entertain that advice.
Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Prime Minister for leadership in Paris and for attending the upcoming Earth Day signing at the United Nations. But our current target does not reflect that leadership. Our current target does not meet the climate urgency and the emergency situation we face. In fact, it's still the weakest target in the G7. It's still the target of the previous government. It's urgently required that we ratchet up our target. Will the Prime Minister please reassure Canadians that we plan to put in place a tougher target and soon? That is leadership.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member opposite for her question and her hard work on the environment, including with us in Paris when we talked about and actually got to an agreement that talks about increasing ambition of targets for countries like Canada, indeed countries around the world, as we move forward. We are working with the provinces, with municipalities, with industry, with businesses, with individuals to make sure that we continue to build a strong economy while protecting the environment in a way that for 10 years the previous government was unable to do.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of 5 finalists for the 2015 Shaughnessy Cohen Prize for Political Writing. Maybe this is 2016. At any rate, Greg Donaghy, Norman Hilmer, Andrew Nikiforuk, John Ibbotson, and Sheila Watt-Kluche. I note that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, earlier today, the House of Commons in the United Kingdom voted unanimously to recognize that Christians, Yazidis, and other ethnic and religious minorities in Iraq and Syria are suffering genocide at the hands of ISIS. And on March 15th, the U.S. House of Representatives also unanimously declared that genocide was taking place in Iraq and Syria by ISIS. In light of this, and after discussions that have taken place among all parties, I hope we will find unanimous consent for the following motion: that the House declare that ISIL is responsible for atrocities such as genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity against ethnic and religious groups, namely but not limited to Christians, Yazidis, and Shia Muslims in Syria and Iraq, and that it strongly condemn these atrocities and call for an independent investigation and for perpetrators to be brought to justice.
Does the Honourable Leader of the Opposition have the unanimous consent of the House to move the motion?